The female spy was on her way to a secret rendezvous point, completely unaware that the CIA had her under full surveillance the entire time. Roya was extremely cautious. While waiting at a bus stop, she deliberately used the reflection in the glass to scan her surroundings, checking whether anyone was following her. Lisa watched everything clearly from the surveillance room, growing even more convinced that Roya was about to meet someone in secret. Soon, Roya arrived at the plaza. Quinn immediately coordinated agents positioned around the area to track her closely. Virgil and Max got out of their car and followed from a distance. But Roya suddenly stopped beside a fountain, where a man wearing sunglasses was already waiting for her. The roar of the fountain was so loud that Max could only edge closer, but he still couldn't hear a word they were saying. Once the conversation ended, Virgil immediately tailed the man into the subway station. But it was rush hour, and the man moved fast. In the end, they lost him. Lisa was frustrated and anxious. The team immediately pulled the station cameras. Minutes later, they finally spotted the man exiting through another station entrance. The man removed his sunglasses, but facial recognition returned no matches. His identity and whereabouts remained a complete mystery. Just as everyone hit a dead end, Lisa suggested bringing Brody in to identify him. She believed Brody wouldn't tip anyone off. After all, the lead on Roya had come from him in the first place. After thinking it over, Quinn agreed. The first challenge Brody faced after regaining some freedom was Jessica. Jessica had already made it clear, unless he explained all his recent suspicious behavior, he wasn't welcome back home. Brody could only lie and claim he'd been carrying out classified work for the CIA the whole time. Seeing the sincerity on his face, Jessica finally chose to trust him one more time. The next day, Brody received a request to meet with Lisa. She slid a photo of the mysterious man across the table toward him, but Brody said he'd never seen the man before. Disappointed, Lisa turned and pinned the photo onto the investigation board. The left side of the board was covered with files of dead suspects. The right side held the active targets still being pursued. As Brody glanced over, his eyes suddenly froze on one photo on the right side. It was the tailor. Lisa and Quinn instantly caught the change in his expression. The atmosphere turned tense. Quinn immediately pressed him, asking if he was still hiding critical information. Brody insisted he truly didn't know anything, but Quinn was convinced he was holding back. Lisa questioned him too. After a long silence, Brody finally walked over and removed the tailor's photo from the board. He explained what happened the night of the fundraiser. He had planned to take the tailor to a safe house, but the man mistakenly believed Brody was there to kill him. While trying to escape in panic, he fell and was impaled by a tree branch. Quinn was furious. He'd had a 6-man surveillance team staking the place out around the clock, all waiting for the target to appear. And now Brody was telling him the tailor was already dead. Brody and Quinn immediately started arguing. Lisa quickly stepped in and pulled Quinn outside. If the tailor was dead, that meant the CIA could now search the location openly. There could still be new leads hidden there. Quinn immediately dispatched a forensic team to the tailor's shop. At the same time, Lisa turned her attention back to Brody. She suggested using Roya as a lead to draw out whoever had replaced the tailor in the network and finally break the stalemate. Once Quinn confirmed the tailor shop was secure, he led the team inside. He ordered them not to overlook a single clue. Lisa found Brody and told him Roya would be conducting interviews that day. He could use the opportunity to test her. Brody resisted. According to their arrangement, he wasn't supposed to initiate contact with Roya, but Lisa had already prepared the excuse for him. Roya had previously told Brody to repair his relationship with Lisa, so he could claim that during an intimate moment with her, he accidentally overheard part of a phone call. Brody didn't agree right away. Lisa gently reassured him, placing a hand on his shoulder. To Brody, the gesture felt exhausting and humiliating. He finally snapped and asked what this was supposed to be. If he refused, would Lisa expose everything to his family and destroy his life completely? Then he pushed open the car door and got out. With bitter sarcasm in his voice, he said he'd do exactly what Lisa wanted. After Roya finished work, Brody told her he needed to talk. He said he'd accidentally overheard Lisa mention on the phone that a suspicious individual had just entered the United States. He didn't know the person's identity, but Hezbollah had been mentioned specifically in the conversation. He felt the information was too important not to pass along immediately. After hearing him out, Roya simply replied, "Thanks." Then Roya brought up the tailor herself. She said FBI forensic teams had already searched the shop. Brody immediately asked whether they might have left behind any critical evidence, but Roya answered cryptically, "Maybe." The strange tone in her voice instantly put Lisa on alert back in the surveillance room. Meanwhile, Quinn and his team searched the tailor shop over and over again but found nothing significant. Then Quinn received a call from Lisa. She told him everything that had happened between Brody and Roya, emphasizing that Roya somehow already knew about the Gettysburg operation. That meant there had to be a hidden secret inside the shop. Lisa couldn't explain exactly what felt wrong, but her instincts were screaming that something was off. Quinn told her not to worry. They'd tear the place apart if they had to, and he immediately requested additional armed support. As Quinn paced through the shop deep in thought, his eyes suddenly landed on the wall across from him. Something about it felt strange. Slowly, he walked over and knocked on it lightly. The hollow echo confirmed his suspicion instantly. Before he could investigate further, a noise suddenly came from the entrance. Quinn immediately went on alert. Armed extremists stormed into the shop and opened fire wildly. A brutal gunfight erupted, and several agents were killed. The leader removed his helmet. It was the same man who had secretly met with Roya earlier. They smashed open the hollow wall Quinn had discovered and pulled out a massive crate hidden inside. Before leaving, they also took the bodies of their dead comrades with them. Only after the gunfire finally stopped did Quinn manage to sit up, having miraculously survived the barrage. Lisa stormed into Brody's office and demanded to know whether he'd known about this the whole time. Brody looked genuinely confused. Lisa was furious. 7 agents were dead. Brody insisted he knew nothing, but Lisa became more emotional with every word, nearly breaking down. Brody kept trying to calm her, swearing he had no idea. Finally, Lisa couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into tears. What she hated wasn't how cunning the enemy was. What terrified her was the possibility that trusting Brody had led directly to the massacre in Gettysburg. The next morning, while Brody was out jogging, Roya suddenly stopped him and asked whether he'd heard about Gettysburg. Brody replied that the news was everywhere. It was impossible not to know. Then he asked her, did they really have to kill everyone? Roya calmly answered that the important thing was they got what they came for. Their entire conversation was being monitored by Lisa. But Roya still refused to reveal the details of the operation. Instead, she asked why Brody suddenly seemed so interested in everything lately. Brody argued that things were different now. 6 federal agents were dead. Nothing could go back to the way it was before. Still, Roya refused to give up anything useful. She only vaguely said the operation was moving very quickly and told Brody to wait for further instructions because she was about to meet someone. At the same time, she instructed him to keep the vice president happy during this week's events and maintain appearances. Even though Roya revealed nothing concrete, everyone listening could feel just how urgent the situation had become. The moment Quinn heard the update, he completely lost interest in resting. He ripped the 4 needle from his arm and got up immediately. That weekend, the vice president's fundraiser went ahead as scheduled, with David personally overseeing security. The organizers were especially fond of Brody and had high hopes for his future. But every compliment made Brody more uncomfortable. He was trapped inside a terrorist conspiracy now, no longer the pure American hero everyone believed him to be. Maintaining the facade was becoming unbearable. At that same moment, a heated argument broke out at the estate between the vice president's son, Locke, and Brody's daughter, Dana. A few days earlier, during a date, Locke had recklessly shaken off his security detail while driving. But he accidentally hit a pedestrian. Knowing he absolutely couldn't be identified, Locke fled the scene immediately and repeatedly warned Dana never to tell anyone. Their families were too important. If the truth came out, the consequences would be disastrous. But Dana had been drowning in guilt and anxiety ever since. She secretly went to the hospital to ask about the victim and learned the person had died. The weight of it crushed her. She confronted Locke again, insisting they needed to take responsibility together. But Locke kept stalling, while Dana refused to back down. Their argument nearly drew the attention of both mothers. Unable to hold it in any longer, Dana finally confessed everything. The vice president's wife immediately turned grim and brought both kids into another room to hear the full story. Jessica was furious after learning the truth and scolded Dana harshly. But the vice president's wife remained eerily calm. She told Locke to leave immediately and publicly claimed he'd simply been drunk. Jessica also sent Dana back to her room. After the kids left, Jessica suggested they deal with the matter honestly. But the vice president's wife coldly replied that she would handle everything herself. Jessica instantly understood what she meant. Later, Jessica told Brody what happened. After hearing the news, the vice president ordered David to take full control of the situation and make sure it never became public. But the vice president's wife remained deeply uneasy about Jessica. Meanwhile, Locke prepared to leave, but Dana insisted this couldn't just disappear. Locke disagreed. Dana realized then that their parents had raised them with completely different values. The next morning, Brody tried comforting Dana, telling her not to worry and that he'd handle everything. He prepared to take her to the police station. From a distance, David saw this and immediately alerted Lisa. By the time Brody and Dana arrived outside the station, Lisa was already waiting there. She stopped Brody from going inside. If he filed a report, it would inevitably distance him from the vice president. And Abu Nazir needed him to stay close to the vice president. But Brody didn't care anymore. This was about Dana. Lisa warned him that if he went through with it, his immunity deal would be revoked. In the end, Brody could only helplessly persuade his daughter to let the matter go for now and deal with it later. Dana understood immediately. With bitter sarcasm, she asked, "So what matters more than the election?" Then she stormed away. At that moment, Dana's trust in her father completely shattered. Brody was furious, while Lisa could do nothing except apologize over and over again.